Well, hello everyone. I hope you're all well and everything is coming through nice and crystal clear. We are back Sunday night, 6 p.m. here at the live chat for In the Potting Shed for the Veg Ground podcast. Now, as always, I'd like to start by asking, what have you been up to throughout your own allotment, your own garden, or anything to do with your own vegetable growing area? It's been is with us this weekend, and one of my nieces absolutely loves her gardening. Well, actually, to be fair, both of them do, but one really loves her gardening, the other one just likes jumping in and getting messy and everything. So we've had those over the weekend. Unfortunately, we couldn't do a huge amount of gardening, but we did do quite a bit. We managed to fit in a few bits. We got some peas sown. Felton first, they're going to be overwintered. They're going to be growing down on the allotment, provide us with an early crop of peas. We've sown more broad beans. Again, early crop of broad beans on the way. And what else did we do? We had a bit of a tidy up in the garden, played with the chickens, went down the allotment today and carried on with a bit of weeding, that sort of thing, usual sort of thing. Talking of going down the allotment, you may remember, if you were tuned in last weekend, there was a discussion came in from one of my fellow allotment holders who's on the same site as me, who mentioned that there's been quite a few thefts on the allotment. Well, sure enough, one of my squash plants has been stolen. Not my plant, sorry, my squash. The mashed potato squash, something I was looking forward to eating and really getting stuck into. It's been stolen. Absolutely gutted by that. But yeah, that kind of sums up what I've been up to over this weekend in a very brief update. You will find out, of course, on the podcast, if you listen to that, quite everything that I've been up to. But what have you been up to? Let me know in the comments. Talking of the comments, let's have a quick look and see what's going on out there. Over on Facebook, Richard Vobes is out there saying good evening. Fiona Cooper is out there saying hello. Hello to you. Richard Vobes is growing weeds while he has been away for the week. Unfortunately, that does happen. And Ian Beddoes is saying evening or good evening to you. Over on YouTube, Ed Loud is doing his confusing Eve Goodnings. Always confuses me when he says that. I swear he does it just to trip me up. Deborah Warren is saying hello. Hello to you. Lovely to see you. Steve is saying good evening. Just in from the garden, pulling carrots for tea. Turbo Stream, good evening from a dry Birmingham. It's been dry here too, makes a change. And Stuart Jackson, evening Richard, good evening to you. Now Steve and Richard Vose are both commenting on who or what steals a squash. And Steve can't believe people would steal food off plots. Unfortunately, it's one of the worst sides, I feel, of allotment tiering, is that people do take the stuff. I think they see it as being a free item, and they're not the most secure sites, are they, allotments? And I'm absolutely annoyed that I had this beautiful looking squash. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't going to feed a family or anything like that, but it was just coming along really nicely. I was going to harvest it this weekend and have it on our dinner, and it had been stolen. Absolutely peed off, to say the least. But as I said, it does happen. My garden, if I turned everything in my garden at home over to grown food, which I kind of do anyway, but I wouldn't be able to have space for certain other things. And you got to take the rough with the smooth. That's why I always try and grow my allotment as if it's backup. It's not a necessary what I grow there. It's just a backup. Let me get my words out. Stuart Jackson, hope you like my sweet corn. I saw that earlier. Yep, lovely. And Turbo Stream, it's unbelievable that food is stolen. It annoys me. It's not the first time these sort of things have happened. And I know I'm not the only person. We saw a video on Dan's YouTube channel recently where he confronted somebody who was taking food off somebody else's allotment. And I've seen many, many years ago now that there was several, well, over the years actually, thinking about it, I've seen more and more, people have had their food stolen from their allotments. It's gutting, but what can we do about it? Charlotte Gleason is out there. Good evening to you. And she has been mowing leaves to chop them for the compost heap. I flipped a compost heap yesterday, heavy work, got some chard and perpetual spinach, plug plants out and a spare patch of garden next to my rhubarb. I've moved one of my growing boxes into my potting shed bench and planted out my winter gem lettuces into it. Crikey, Charlotte, you have been really, really busy. It's, wow. But puts me to shame, to say the least. But I've got 2 weeks off work, so I can catch up on everything. Ed Loud over on YouTube. I wouldn't mind if it was hungry, poor people, but I doubt that was the case. If someone was genuinely hungry, I'll happily give them the food. And I have to agree, Ed, but I just think they should ask. Don't just take, ask. That's where I would cross the line and say, here you go, help yourself to this, but not this. What about apples on a tree with lots on it, from Richard Vobes? Are you, is this an apple tree on an allotment or whatever? Again, I've got quite a few apples on my allotment, but if somebody came to me and asked for some, I wouldn't mind. But if they take, then I think that's crossing a line. That's not on. That being said, I do know there on other allotment sites, and in fact my old allotment, we had a kind of agreement with some other allotment holders. We had a tree, it was just too big. We couldn't harvest all the apples, especially the ones at the top. So we did kind of say to everyone, you know what, if they're there, help yourself. We always had plenty. It's just unfortunate. It really is quite upsetting. Turbo Stream is agreeing with Ed about it being for hungry people, and of course ask, it's a fact people just take, seems more malicious than needy. And Turbo Stream, I admit to not having been to my allotment for a week now. My home garden needs the attention now. I'll come to that in a minute, Turbo Stream. So yeah, I do agree. I think if people just asked if they could take a few carrots or a few apples or something like that, then that is absolutely fine. Vobes is asking why, if the apples fall, are they okay? Again, it does. I just think if they're out in the wild, then I think it's okay to take them. But if they're on somebody's garden or land, then I think it's only polite to ask. The chances are they'll probably turn around and say, yeah, help yourself. But I just think it's a bit rude just to take. Phone lines are open if you want to add anything to that. The number is 07307 135 174. Such a shame about your thefts from Charlotte. Could be more common this year if people are struggling to feed their families because of out of work. In fact, I think I mentioned that on a podcast right at the beginning of lockdown, that I thought thefts were going to be a bit more of a problem. And Steve is asking if he was wondering if it was taken by another plot holder or someone wandering onto the site. And it could be a combination of the two. I've got a little secret I'll share with someone. I've got a little wildlife camera that I'm going to set up and just see if we get anybody going on the allotment. I'm going to set that up in a few days' time down on the allotment. I'm going to have it at home first because I want to see what wildlife we get at home, but then we'll see what we get down on the allotment as well. And I think between the two, it'll be interesting to find out just what we capture and what goes on. Now, a Turbo Stream was saying that he's admitted to not being down his allotment for a week now, but his home garden needs the attention now. Now, that's interesting. I popped down the allotment today. First time I've managed to fit down there all a week. But because I've got the next couple of weeks off work, my plan is to spend this first week getting the home garden into a good shape, getting it tidier, just a bit better looking and tidied along. Whereas the following week, I'm going to concentrate on the allotment. Bit of switching and what have you, but I'm looking forward to it. Right, and Charlotte, had my mum's help. I need some time at home, busy at work, chill out time needed. Charlotte, I think we're all in that same boat. It's been a nightmare since going back to work to try and find the time to fit everything in, to say the least. But it's all good fun. And that's why I was glad to have the nieces for a bit of help. Richard Golden has joined. Hello to you. All hail the Butt King. Hello, sir. Made me smile all week. So what Richard's referring to in that is that on the Skinny Jean Gardener podcast, I've been nicknamed the Butt King after the fact that I have 20 water butts. I don't mind that. I don't mind being called the Butt King. I think having that many water butts proves it's worthwhile because, you know what, I've always got water, except for this year. Stuart Jackson, stealing an apple is no different to stealing money. I am with you. If someone asked, I would always give veg fruit away. That's my feelings on it as well. I mean, apples, you know, that might have fallen to the ground. I think it's a bit rude still, but I can I can ignore that, especially if there's still plenty on the tree. But when someone takes my single squash, that, you know, there's only one there, that crosses the boundary quite a bit. Dad's saying he has a spare CCTV camera that you could pot up on the shed just to do a picture. Yeah, I'll pop round and see you one day, actually, Dad, and we'll got a few things to sort out and discuss that. That'd be cool. Turbo Stream, who was saying that he's concentrating on the garden. His garden got neglected because I'm my first year on the allotment and wanted to get it in shape. It's no shame in that. I think we all do that where we concentrate on. I find myself, I seem to either concentrate on the garden or the allotment, and it floats around between the two. But it's all good fun, and my garden's not in a bad shape. My allotment's not in a bad shape, but I know if I just buckle down and concentrate on both areas as we go into the winter, we should be really set up and get them really ready that all the winter jobs, my infrastructure jobs, can be done. Turbo Stream is also saying he gave a fair few veggies away this year and was pleased with his efforts. I think I saw you gave some of your veggies away to Richard Vobes, and they did look really good. But that's the thing I find with many allotmenteers. Quite often they are more than happy to give away some of their homegrown food, just because I think they are rather nice people and tend to try and help out a lot with that. Cynthia's camera on YouTube has joined. Good evening to you. Okay, I tell you what we're going to do. Let's have a look at what's in the news this week. So this week's news article, I have added a link in the descriptions if you want to read it. It comes from The Independent, and the title is Tomatoes, Turnips Rule in Big Year for Veggie Gardening. The year of the new coronavirus was also the year of new gardeners trying to grow their own vegetables. Something I'm sure we're all aware of is that the coronavirus, people suddenly turned to gardening, and vegetable growing particularly kicked off in a big way. In the year of the new coronavirus, when new gardeners came out in droves to try growing their own vegetables, tomatoes were still king. And in a twist, the respect-seeking turnip actually turned some heads. Seed companies taking stock of what went well and what came out of the woodwork proclaimed the tomatoes are the top seller this year. Specifically at Burpee, the bodacious tomato was the best-selling vegetable seed. The company calls the large disease-resistant but pricey hybrid indeterminate tomato, which is good with sandwiches, burgers, salads and more, our new superstar. So tomatoes has obviously been a good selling point this year for seeds and getting, I guess, more people into gardening. And it kind of makes sense because when this all started back in March, it was kind of the time we could start sowing things like tomatoes and things like that. And I think tomatoes are a common one. You obviously often hear people start off by growing tomatoes. So that makes a lot of sense. Tomatoes aren't the only veggies that gardeners grew from seed. Cucumbers, peppers and beans also near the top of consumer retail sales. But turnip, which I've got to admit, I'm not a great lover of turnips. I find them a bit bleh. It's the only way I can describe them. Now, the turnips are easy to grow, which is why they became quite a top seller. But it's a hard to figure out what to do with a root vegetable is exactly what it says on the news article, which is I completely agree with. However, the silky sweet turnip is meant to be quite sweet, so that might be one I'll try next year. But yeah, basically you get the gist. It goes on to say tomatoes have came out on top for the most sold seed this year. And I've got to say, I've grown quite a few tomatoes this year, as I always do. We've done pretty well with tomatoes. I didn't grow any turnips this year, if memory serves me right, purely because I just find them a bit bleh. I just gave up on them. But I did grow kohlrabi for the first time, and I found that really nice. We had some for our lunch this evening, and even my nieces and my sister and brother-in-law came round and enjoyed it too. So kohlrabi is a definite plus point on that regard. Turbo Stream, he also has grown turnips but didn't like them, and I think that's a common thing. And Steve, my first turnip of the year, looks ready. Only sowed them last month, but I agree, not my favourite, as you know. So when we had Steve on the podcast, we mentioned turnips a couple of times because we just, like we said, and I think that article describes it best. They're easy to grow, very easy to grow, but they're just, what the hell do you do with them instead? Richard Vobes is saying Turbo's veg was delicious. Well, it did look very, very good, I will say. I don't think I was able to sample some, but what I remember, you had some good-looking marrows and some good-looking beetroot. So well done. Absolutely brilliant. Pauline King is out there. Good evening, Richard. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Hope you are well out there as well. I'm just going to have a slurp, so excuse me, everybody. Before I went live, I grabbed a couple of biscuits just to... I thought I'd have time to munch on before I started, but I didn't get around to it. So when I put the photo video up later, I'll be munching on my biscuits. So, as I said, the phone line is open, 07307 135 174. We seem to be talking about what we've been up to on the allotment, thefts on the allotment sites, and the news article I just read out about tomatoes being the most popular vegetable from seed. Now, Turbo Stream saying he mainly grew root veggies for winter, parsnips, beetroot, leek, etc. And I think that's pretty audible. I mean, I've still got parsnips on the allotment that I've just remembered. Still got beetroot at home. Absolutely love the beetroot. Still got lots of leeks, which which hopefully will now start thickening up nicely. I've got leeks everywhere though, because I sowed the entire packet of leek seeds, and you get hundreds and hundreds of leek seeds in a packet. They all germinated, and I put about 3 rows down on the allotment, and then with the extras, I decided I'll put them in boxes that I can just move around, and still got them going. Still got these boxes going. They're not exactly the biggest at the moment. I probably have to give them a bit of chicken manure, actually, thinking about it, and that might just help them out. What else? Stuart Jackson. It's been a real learning curve for me this year, but I will not be growing sweet corn next year. But don't give up, Stuart. Don't give up. Just see it as a learning curve. I think I'll have to show. I think the pictures on the video later on, and I've tried. Or did I include it? I can't remember. I don't think I did actually, but I think we'll have to try and discuss and find out quite why they didn't work. Charlotte Gleason, I grew turnips for my hens to eat. They love them. I have to boil them though because they are fussy. Well, I've never given them to my chickens, but I will have to try and see what goes on. Pauline King, chocolate digestives, my favourite too. And what are you growing over winter? Right, what am I growing? So I've got cabbages, cauliflowers, spring onions, lettuces, salad leaves, all winter mixes. What else? Mizuna, spinach, broad beans, peas, onions, garlic, shallots. Quite a long list of what I'm growing over winter, actually, Pauline. But that gives you a few things. Leeks, obviously, but they were sown back in March, and they're in the ground. High potassium for big leeks, Steve is saying. I just add chicken manure, to be honest, and you're probably right with potassium, but I find chicken manure really gives them a boost as well. Ian Beddoes is saying he's sticking mainly to salads next year, plus the peas for the grandkids. I love salads. I've got to admit, every month I try and grow salads because we eat quite a few. We grew some donated sweet corn and they were missing lots of kernels. We'll try next year though. Right, I think that's the same as what happened to Stuart as well, looking at the photo that he sent me. Missing kernels normally means it's down to pollination. Now, sweet corn is not pollinated by insects like most other vegetables or fruits. They're actually wind pollinated. So when you plant out your sweet corn, you don't plant your sweet corn in a row. You want to plant it in a box type, I guess is a way to describe it. So they're all in you might have 4 that way and 4 that way and fill them up. And then as the wind blows, it pollinates from the top down. I've never actually had that problem with lack of kernels myself, but it works for me. Now, Turbo Stream is saying, thank you, Mr. Vobes. Glad you liked the veg. Ed Loud, I use a lot of root veg, such as swede and turnip mix with carrots, onions and celery. Minced and used as a base for soups and stews. I started the mincing due to my granddad's dietary needs. It turns out great. That's a good point, actually. I never thought about using it to go with turnips. Like you're thinking, Ed, I can always trust in you to come up with some good ideas. Now, Lola J, young man, I was once in your shoes. I said I was, on all 4s and on 2s. I said, young man, there's no need to be sad. I'll use lube. It won't hurt too bad. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. The YMCA. Thank you very much, Lola. Turbo Stream, hopefully we'll be growing a lot more next winter. I didn't want to go mad in my first year, so stuck to a few basic crops. And Adrian Cable, can I plant courgettes into fresh sheep muck? I would say no. Most manures need a bit of rotting down. I think sheep is a fairly cool manure, so you might get away with it, but I would always just let it rot down for 6 months before planting out courgettes. Courgettes can actually be rather hungry plants. They are, of course, related a cucurbits, similar to pumpkin or butternut squash. So they can be quite hungry. So I certainly find that in well-rotted manure, they do grow quite well. Fresh, I think it may not be broken down enough for the roots to really get a hold onto it. But I've never used sheep manure myself, so I'll put that out there. If anybody else out there has any experience of using sheep manure, can they plant courgettes straight into fresh sheep manure? A Turbo Stream is saying we are heading to Ed's afterward for our soup of the day. Oh, Adrian has said he's thinking next spring when he plants out courgettes. I thought that. In that case, I would say if you've got the sheep manure now, get it down on the ground as a mulch, and it should rot down over the winter and ready to go. So yes, I don't see there being a huge problem with that. Pauline King, in reply to what I'm growing over winter, quite a lot. So far we have kohlrabi, cauliflower, broccoli, leeks and beets. Might do some salad greens now you have mentioned them. Yeah, there's quite a bit that can be sown. Obviously, Pauline in Canada may not have quite the same as us, but knowing where she lives, the weather's probably a bit milder than what we get in general whereabouts she is in Canada. So I think broad beans and peas are probably worth looking at as well, overwintered onions and garlic, if you can get them where you are, of course. Now, Richard Vobes is saying he loves root veg in soups and casseroles. So I think, Ed, we're going to need one of your soup recipes in order for everyone to join in with this this soup. Adrian is saying yes, he has it. So he's going to pop that sheep manure right down now and get it ready to go. I think that'd be okay personally. Turbo Stream, I use chicken manure pellets, a handful in the hole and top dressed every few weeks through the summer. Yeah, I use chicken manure pellets quite a bit, especially, chicken manure, especially on like my salad crops, my leafy greens, my cabbages, my kales. They do really well at that. That's the point. I'm growing kales over winter as well. Anything that's a leafy growth, chicken manure, I find do really well at. Linda Kane has joined us over on YouTube. She said she thought she'd drop in and see what you're talking about this evening. So we're talking about quite a wide range of subjects, actually. Well, what was it? We had an article from The Independent about tomatoes being a big seller this year. We've had a theft on the allotment. We were discussing that, what we can grow over winter, and lots going on. And Stuart Jackson is having problems with his sweet corn, and we're trying to solve that for everyone. And talking of Stuart Jackson, now we have started our veg garden at school. I will be growing a sweet corn at school as my garden is small. I am really thinking what I grow in my plot, only growing what we like to eat. Yeah, I think that's important actually. If you're small on space, only grow what you eat. And even then, you want to see if you're growing what you eat and you're still going to struggle with space, what will cost a lot to buy or what tastes significantly better by growing your own. That's where I'd focus my energies. Talking of soup, this has come from Steve. We had butternut squash soup today using our first ever butternut squash. I think I got a photo of that. It was really good, certainly a success. I love butternut squash. I haven't managed to get any butternuts this year though. Excuse me. But I love butternut squash. It's one of my favourites. Pumpkin squash as well, which I'm looking forward to cooking in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah, soups are a great. Coming into those winter months, so I think I'm going to have to record a few podcasts about some more soups that we can do using some of these vegetables. Where was I? Ed Loud. I sent one recipe into dear Mr. Vobes during lockdown. Made a video of it. It's so simple. It's crazy. Well, that's the thing I love about soups is they are simple but worth doing. And in the winter months, particularly, my Jerusalem artichoke soup is delicious. Linda Kane, finally at the end of my tomatoes. So tonight's is spaghetti with homemade pesto with roast cherry tomatoes. Now have no veg to talk about now. Well, we have to get you growing some. I was compiling a list earlier of what seeds we can sow in November, but we've got lots of seeds that we can sow throughout October at the moment. Broad beans, peas, lots of options if you want to get growing those, Linda. Turbo Stream's favourite soup is potato, parsnip and apple. I think I've got a recipe like that on the website. I'm not sure, actually. Adrian, I presume I should dig the manure in rather than planting into muck. Well, personally, no, I've only used horse manure, but I've just laid all my horse manure, well rotted, on the top of the soil, and I've planted it into that. It's my no-dig method that I use. Of course, I can also cover that in compost, so I don't actually dig it in, but that's because I'm what's called a no-digger, i.e. we don't dig over the soil, or in farming terms, we don't plough the soil, we just cover with more manure, more compost and plant into that. If you want to dig, and you do dig, then yes, you should dig it in if that's what you're going to do it, but personally I don't. I made some parsnip and apple soup. Lovely. That's from Linda Kane. And Ian Beddoes is still harvesting tomatoes up here. Many are still green yet, but are getting there. Well, if you wait for I tell you what, I keep talking about this photo video. Let's put that on. Hello, mate. Where's the photo video? Let's put this on. And you'll see an option talking about all these. Well, it's time to take another look at all the photos that I have been sent or posted in the Veg Grower Podcast Facebook group. Firstly, Stephen has invited a couple of friends in from the garden. Gotta say, these do look like some rather impressive butternut squashes to me. However, the faces say they may not be so happy. Stephen's also had a surprise day off work, so he spent the morning down on the allotment where he planted out some onions and some garlic. He goes on to say that the plot seems further than it did in the summer, which I think is a regular thing for many of us at this time of year. Stuart has saved some butternut squash seeds for use in next year, something that I have tried to do many times with very little success. So I'll be interested to see just how Stuart gets on with these. Stuart's also been busy sowing broad bean seeds. Stuart is a member of the Supporters Members Club, so he has got this collection of seeds along with many other seeds each month. Stuart's also put some green tomatoes in a box with a banana, and look, they have started to turn red rather quickly within just a few days. Just goes to prove that actually green tomatoes and bananas do work well together. Stuart's also been busy getting prepared for Xmas with this Christmas pudding recipe. I don't know about you, but I do like to make a nice Christmas pudding, and that's something I'm going to be trying to do, so thank you for the reminder, Stuart. Well, that is it for this week's photos. As always, if you've got any photos you would like to share, then post them over on the Veg Grower Podcast Facebook group, or you can send them by email directly to me at richard@veggrowerpodcast.co.uk. Well, that's it for this week. Keep posting your photos, keep them coming in, and until next time, please take care. So there we go. I brought that up because of Ian talking about still harvesting tomatoes and still green, and there's a photo in there from Stuart about how he got his tomatoes to ripen. So well worth doing. Lee Connolly has joined. Good evening, Mr. Suggett. Good evening to you. And he's spent the day going against everything I believe in, painting pumpkins. Ooh. Well, I'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's go through the comments. So, over on YouTube, Where were we? Where was the last one I read out? Parsnip soup is great. The main reason why I grow parsnips, from Steve. Turbo Stream. Adrian, would have thought by spring the sheep manure would be ready to plant in. I agree. Steve, so satisfying as a whole soup meal costs nothing. It's all off the plot. All talking about a conversation going on here about sheep manure and soups. Adrian is saying my thinking too. I think it'll be well rotted down. I totally agree. Ed Loud, I read that one. Linda Kane, garden really not suitable, but next year maybe planting in a wooden trough I have and big pots. Yeah, nice big wooden trough makes life so much easier. I love my veggie pod for that very reason. And I grow so many salads in there that I think they are such a good thing. If you don't know what a veggie pod is, everyone, I've made videos on it. And I talk about it quite often in the podcast. It's a raised... I guess a raised bed, a bit like a veg truck that used to be all the craze. It's got a wicking system built in that wicks water up. It's got a watering system in the hood over the top, and it's got a mesh over it. It's such an easy piece of kit that I really has revolutionised how much gardening I do, because that 1 metre square takes the least amount of time for me to look after. By the way, I ate my biscuits while I was on that live video. Turbo Stream, I am a no digger. All that digging is way too much hard work. I just never understood. When I became a no digger, I was very, very young. It was when I first started. And I remember at school, we had studied about how worms pull that stuff down into the soil. And my granddad turned around to me and said we needed to dig it. And I never understood why when the worms did that themselves. So I just became a no-digger without even realising it, just through learning all about it. Excuse me. And since then, I've became then no-digging became a thing, and to me, it was just normal. I lost my train of thought there, so I apologise for that. And let's go back to the comments. Steve, I like the tomato and banana trick. We'll give it a go as I'm picking all my leftover green tomatoes over the next week. I might give it a try myself because I've got a few green tomatoes that are in need of something, and I don't think they're still ripening, but they are ripening a lot slower, and I'm weighing up whether not to get rid of them, or I might do the tomato and banana trick as well. Apparently I did read that one. So Ed Loud said, I've been living off homemade soups and bread for the last 9 months, despite it being due to being in a pinch. Physically, I've not felt healthier in years. Kelly Wheeler, hello to you. First time watching, normally tunes into Lee's podcast. I thought I would check in and watch. We're going to talk about Lee in just a second. Adrian, are potatoes worth growing, or are they so cheap, better to do other things? I do grow potatoes. I've obviously got an allotment and a big garden, so I've got a slight advantage. They are cheap as chips to buy, so they're probably not if you're struggling for... Excuse me, sorry, so windy tonight. If you're struggling for space. That being said, potatoes taste so much better when they are homegrown, and the varieties you can get are a lot better. So you got to weigh it up. If you can dedicate the space to potatoes, then do it. If you feel you haven't got the space, then go and buy them. And try and buy them from somewhere like a farm shop or somewhere, a proper greengrocers, where you get better potatoes and better choice. Rick M, thanks for the advice on peppers last week. Miss M has decided to ferment some of the green peppers. Oh, lovely. Oh, fermented peppers. I haven't done that for ages. And Linda Kane has also said she managed to ripen all the green tomatoes using a banana. You can make green tomato soup and it's great. Or green tomato chutney, and that is quite tasty. How long can I leave the carrots in the ground, Stuart Jackson is asking. Well, I leave them in until I need them. We don't really get frozen ground, but if your ground gets really frozen, it's difficult to dig over. You want to get them out before then and pop them into a tub of sand or a box of sand moist so that they can be preserved. But I prefer to leave them in the ground. They're biennials, so they can grow 1 year and they flower the next. So you're fine if you want to do that. Pauline King is also saying you can wrap tomatoes in newspaper and pop them into the dark and they can ripen quite quickly. And Stuart Jackson is saying the tomato trick, you must pop them in the dark for it to work. So that's what I've got to learn. And Adrian, who was asking about potatoes, has plenty of space. So I would say go ahead and do it. You know, potatoes are, as I said, they're cheap to buy, but fresh potatoes that are literally straight out the ground taste so much better because they are that much fresh. Now, I'm going to talk about Lee because he came up with this comment earlier that he's gone painting pumpkins. And I'm going to have to explain a bit about what I mean. On the podcast, I often talk about how I believe, and this is my personal opinion, when we buy pumpkins for carving for Halloween, which I don't think is going ahead in the same way this year, I see that as being a bit of a waste of a food source. With so many starving people in the world, and this big, huge pumpkin that has had loads of water poured into it and loads of time spent on it to make it grow by the farmers, that we then just go and cut out, make faces and leave it to rot. I see that as being a bit of a waste, which is why I don't do it. I only grow pumpkins to eat them. We've got ceramic pumpkins that we'll put candles in for Halloween. So that is my thoughts on that, and everyone is welcome to their own opinions on that, but that is just my strong thought, and I talk about this quite often. Right, don't forget, if you want to call in, 07307 135 174. Excuse me. I've got a little advertising coming out with Lee, by the way. Comments. I made rhubarb chutney. Hopefully it will turn out okay. I will find out at Christmas. Rhubarb chutney is delicious. Gotta say, I've made that. Didn't make any this year, but we've made it in past years. It is absolutely delicious, and it does go down really well on our Christmas dinners. Linda Kane, I've made about 11 pounds of green tomato chutney. My 2 tomato plants did me proud this year. Just goes to show, I mean, 2 tomato plants can produce quite a bit. I've always thought that I fall into the trap that sometimes I try and grow as many tomato plants as possible, but end up with way too many. I got it about right this year because I didn't grow a huge amount. I think I grew 2, 4 in the greenhouses and probably 10 tomato plants in total. And they provided us with just enough tomatoes to keep us going, so I'm happy with that. Linda's also made a runner bean chutney. Never tried that, but her nephew messaged to say it was immense, even though I advised him to let it mature a bit. I've been slacking on the chutneys this year. I haven't made many. I've got to make some more. We made some tomato ketchup recently, but definitely gotta make apple chutney I've made in the past, and that was delicious. Kelly Wheeler, I brought a herb which smells like cola. Will it be okay with the colder weather coming, or will I need to cover to protect? A herb that smells like cola. It's not a cola mint by any chance, or a cola basil or something like that. Do you know what the actual variety is? That's gonna help me work out more. Yeah, tough one, that one. Rick M. Talking to my friends today, he said his apple tree, which usually produces loads of apples, has failed to produce this year and wonders why. Well, what I find with many modern varieties of apples is that depending on how much potash you've added the year before. So if you... I'll come to a little trick on this in a minute. But what I tend to find with apples and modern apples is that you get a good year, a very good year, then you get none. And that repeats in alternate each year. Of good year, very good year, none. Good year, very good year, none. Now that's if you generally tend to leave your apples to their own devices and as nature intended. If you add plenty of potash, and I like to do, I like to add ash for my fireplaces, wood ash. It can only be wood ash, not coal, but I just sprinkle that around the base. Probably do it about this time of year and again in the spring. That tends to give you good results right throughout. It's also possible that it flowered too early and there was not enough pollinators about. The fact that it usually produces loads of apples suggests, I think, there's probably a lack of potash, not so much pollinators. But it's been a funny year this year. So try adding some wood ash and see how it does next year. Turbo Stream, does anybody grow runner beans for the beans to use in soups? I don't personally, but we'll put that out there and see if anybody else does that. You on Facebook saw Titchmarsh using loo rolls centres to sow peas this morning. Yep, I used to do that. I don't do it anymore though. Purely because I ended up collecting loads and loads of loo rolls that took up loads and loads of space until I eventually got around to using them. In Manchester, Ian Beddoes is saying, trick or treat has been replaced by kids knocking on the doors saying track and trace. Stuart, I make paper pots, great to do with children. You have to let us know, Stuart, how you make these paper pots. I've got an idea, but it'll be nice to hear from somebody else how you go about making them. Back to YouTube. Ed Loud, I love mushroom soup made from several different varieties for the depth of flavour. Never heard anyone talking about them growing their own mushrooms though. I wonder if it's troublesome or worth it. Right. I'm gonna let you into a little secret. I've always wanted to try growing my own mushrooms. Just purely because I know it's possible, and I've seen places like Wilkinson's and other places actually sell kits to growing mushrooms at home. Reason I don't do it is I'm actually got an allergy to mushrooms, so therefore I don't grow them. But I would love to hear from somebody and get some information on somebody that does grow mushrooms and how easy it is. Ed Loud, Turbo Stream. I don't grow them, but certainly use them. Works well with lumpy soups, especially ones with lots of parsley. I think it's talking about the runner beans. Steve has grown mushrooms before if you buy a mushroom log. So he said it's easy. Turbo Stream, we had a late frost too. Wiped out the gooseberries on the plot. I think that's to do with the apples. Hasn't it been a bad year for runners? I got no runners at all this year. Several sowings. I did struggle with when I planted them out. It was a bit of a we had a dry spell, so they didn't get established as good as they could have done, which didn't help. Artemisa, Kelly Wheeler, Artemisa. I've not heard of that. I'm going to have a look and see what I can find in just a second for you, Kelly. If I don't find it, I tell you what, if you can send me an email, richard@veggrowpodcast.co.uk, I'll find some information and I'll get back to you on that if I don't find it throughout this show. Now, Margaret Peacock, who's came up with a very good comment with regards to the pumpkins. If no one used them for Halloween, then the farmers wouldn't grow them. Loads of people hollow them out and make soups and also roast the seeds. Now, I do agree with you, but what if the farmers were growing the pumpkins that are actually for us to eat? I feel that would be better. I just think it's incredibly wasteful. This is just my personal opinion. I've not got any problem with anybody that does it. It's just my opinion. I just think it's incredibly wasteful when there's hungry people on our own streets that pumpkin could feed 4 days. I just think it's incredibly wasteful. That's my thoughts. I agree for the farmers. It's a great money making, or keeps the farmers going, which farmers have to do. I also think for the supermarkets it's good for them, and so on. And there's probably, because they're not grown to eat, there's probably less restrictions on them. But I still think it's wasteful. My personal opinion. That's all I say on that. Stuart's going to send us a video on the making the paper pots. So when that comes in, we'll play that into this. Oh God, excuse me. We'll play that into this live show. And I have grown. Stuart's also grown mushrooms. Spent £10 on the kit and only got 4 mushrooms. So I never have since. So his experience has not been good, but there could be 1,000,001 reasons. Over on YouTube, Linda, I had a good harvest and gave away most of, as I don't like them. I was given the plants. So, you were lucky then, Turbo Stream. We struggled with them. Okay, I'm going to run. I've got a little advert to quickly run about that's been made for me. You might recognise this bloke, so let's pull it up and we'll come back.
Hey there, I'm award-winning podcaster Lee Connolly, the Skinny Jean Gardener, and I am a member of the Veg Grower Podcast Supporters Members Group. You too can for just £5 a month, where you'll get exclusive videos and podcasts, plus a load of seeds sent out to you as a gift every month too, where Richard will talk you through how to grow them. So become a supporter member right now at veggrowerpodcast.co.uk. I'm getting paid for this, right? Ad. Hashtag ad. Turn it off.
Spared no expense on that advert. So yeah, if you want to call in, we've got a few minutes left before we close. The number is 07307 135 174. Phone line is on. Just double checking it because we've not had a phone call yet. So yeah, there's lots and lots of conversations going on tonight, isn't there? Lots of discussions and what have you. Ed Loud, how many skinny jeans can you grow in Lee Connolly's garden? Lots, because he's got a fairly decent sized garden, depending on what you call a fairly decent sized garden, I suppose, of course. Ian has replied to Stuart. That would be great, as the grandkids may be here over half term and it'd be good to get them to do it. Ivan sent pictures of the seeds sprouting. Oh, I think that's to do with the paper pots. Linda, now going to show my age, but when I was young, no such thing as pumpkins for Halloween, but then Halloween wasn't celebrated until comparatively recently. Turbo Stream saying we are shy, Richard. Well, I am. Don't be shy. We're a friendly bunch. But back to Linda's about no such thing as pumpkins. I mean, originally, before it went over to America, it was Swedes and turnips that were used to carve out faces, and a lot harder to do. I've tried. But in some ways now, this is just me thinking, at least what's scooped out can still be used, so it's not a complete and utter loss. I know pumpkins, the seeds can be used, roasted, and some of the flesh can, but if you've had a candle in it and it's been outdoors all night, I wouldn't really want to use it in a food. Ian Beddoes is saying he can't call in tonight because Formula 1 is on Channel 4. Competing with Formula 1. So, yeah. I mean, it's the whole pumpkin thing. I mean, I've just got a very, very funny feeling of it. But it's the same as I feel about rainwater that runs down off our rooftops, down to the sewers. Yeah, we have perfectly good, fresh drinking water pumped to our house, and we use it to flush the toilet with. I just think we live in a very, very wasteful world in some ways. Now, if everybody was well fed, nobody went hungry, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. But my opinion is it's very wasteful, which is why I don't do it. But I have no problem with anybody else doing it. Has anyone ever grown chia? Saw it on Gardener's World this week. I'm wondering whether planning for next year. You know what? I've never done it myself, but I have heard of it. And I think it's not easy to grow, and it's even harder to grow or to harvest chia seeds, because they're quite small seeds. And a bit like wheat and herbs, I think they need to be dried out and winnowed and what have you. But I think, this is from Lara Williams, everyone, I think, has anyone tried it? Let's put that out there and see if anybody else has. Oh, we have a caller. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you're calling from?
It's Ed Loud. I'm calling from London. Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
Oh, still round and squidgy. Hope you're well.
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Still round and squidgy as well.
Me and you both.
So, what can I do for you today?
Well, nobody else was calling in, and I saw an open microphone. But as you know, I don't know too much about gardening, vegetables and things. But yeah, I saw an open microphone, so I know plenty about using the vegetables at least.
well, that's all part of what I try and do, because growing vegetables is only half of it.
I'm with you on the pumpkin thing, though. Nothing against really anyone that does it, but I wish there was a way you could use more of the pumpkin and maybe like keep the skin just for show. But I think it would just collapse, wouldn't it? It just goes soft and soggy. I don't know. It's such a waste, isn't it? It's I don't know. It sort of pulls my heartstrings living on a tight budget for so many years. I just can't sort of imagine wasting that amount of food, because a pumpkin's a big old thing, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose if you've got the income to do it, and it's not sort of something people would eat. I don't know if they even grow them like specially just to hollow out, or if they are a legitimate food source, the ones you buy in the supermarket. But
I mean, the ones that they're sold in the supermarket, because they're not grown for eating, they're quite watery.
Right.
They're still perfectly good. They're still edible, but like the Crown Prince pumpkins that I've got out in my garden, they are specifically for eating, and they've got a better flavour to them. But I mean, the really, really big ones that people win competitions for, they are just like eating water, because they are full of so much water.
Yeah.
But
well, I've only ever used pumpkins and squashies out of my friend's allotment. I've never actually sort of gone to a shop and purchased one. I don't think so. Anyway, I mean, I suppose there's always a chance I have at some point.
Yeah.
I'm telling a lie. See, I remember buying some frozen butternut squash for a curry once, but yeah, I've certainly never sort of bought a whole squash or pumpkin out of a supermarket. I'm not above going to a supermarket. I buy most of my stuff in supermarkets, but it's not part of my. I think just like I get given them occasionally and make a soup or something, but yeah, it does seem like a terrible waste. And it's sort of I don't know. It's sort of like it's like getting slowly stabbed in the heart when people waste food, and I see so much people waste of food, especially bread products. I see so much waste of bread products. I used to work in a supermarket. I worked for the cooperative for about 7 years, and we used to throw away so much bread. It really does sort of pull my heartstrings a lot. Pumpkins.
I mean, I see lots and lots of food being wasted in my day job, which it annoys me. It really does annoy me when there's people literally outside these places who are living on the streets and do not have a food to eat.
Yeah.
It just seems a bit. I mean, this is why I have a pet hate about pumpkins. It just seems so wasteful that these farmers aren't. Farmers are led by profit, of course, and they've got to make money. And I've got nothing against them, but they put a lot of effort into growing these pumpkins just for it to be carved, sat outside to rot away.
Yeah, it's a shame there's not. I don't think you could really hollow them out and sort of keep anything worth keeping for show. It's a shame there isn't a sort of a way to do both. I know you can keep the seeds, and that's about it. But
well, I guess if you're doing it, I mean, this Linda Kane has said she agrees with us, and it's wasted just for the sake of an evening's entertainment, which I think is a valid point. But I'm just thinking, as perhaps a way to keep everyone happy, we carved it out. We put one of the LED tea lights in, so it didn't burn, and then we put it out or used it for that evening for a couple of hours, perhaps. And then we chopped it up and used it into a soup or something. Yeah,
it's a tough one, but I'm definitely with Linda Kane on the thing about Halloween not being celebrated. But when I was a kid, and I'm only 31, and maybe I was brought up by a different generation. I don't know, but I didn't even know what Halloween was when I went to school and people started talking about it. I've never celebrated it. I've never done anything for Halloween, and I don't really.
Yeah.
My parents never did, and none of my cousins do. My brother doesn't. So it's all a bit beyond me, the Halloween thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Halloween in the UK is that because it was primarily more from the Irish and the Scottish, that I believe they started it, and we were a Christian country. We kind of ignored it because it didn't go in with our beliefs, which is why it wasn't a big thing over here for hundreds of years. But the Irish and the Scottish went over to America, and it became a big thing there when then it came back. That's my understanding.
Yeah, it would make sense. I mean, most of my family really, complicated family, but I've been brought up by a lot of Irish people, and there's a Scottish ancestry on the other side as well. And I mean, we just never did it. Never. I didn't even know what it was. I think my first memories of it are maybe being about 8 or 9 and kids talking about going trick-or-treating. And it was only sort of like half the class that were talking about it, and the other half were just sort of thinking like, what's this new craze? You know, it was like the Spice Girls. It was just a new craze. So
yeah,
you can tell the era I grew up in from that.
yeah, definitely. Interesting. Now,
I'd better get off the phone and let someone else call in and go back to.
Before you go, because I know you're quite a well-rounded person when it comes to food. Chia seeds. Have you eaten them?
Only on top of bread, and I've certainly never purchased them.
Okay.
So I literally, all I've ever done is scatter them on bread, the same as sesame seeds and things like that. If I remember rightly, they're little tiny black things that look like, I don't know, they're really tiny.
Yeah.
They're the things I'm thinking of. And I wasn't really that impressed with them, to be honest. They didn't add much. I'd rather have the sesame seeds, but I'm just going on the flavour. I have heard there's a lot of health benefits.
Yeah.
So, I think if I had more cash to burn, that would be the sort of thing I would be experimenting with, and hopefully soon I will, because I've just got a new part-time job which I should start next month. So I'll have a bit more cash to burn.
Excellent.
So that would be great.
Excellent.
All right, take care, everyone.
Again, sorry, Ed, before you go again.
Okay.
Turbo Stream is saying we need an Ed Loud soup special.
Right.
So, can you make any videos of you making any soups sometime that we can play in?
Of course I can. I make soup almost every day, so I'm sure I can give it a quick film one day. It shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah.
I've done it before. So, I'll have to find a different recipe. The trouble, I don't follow recipes. I just look at what's in my cupboards and
That's fine.
bung it all in. So I'll have to weigh everything and find my scales wherever the hell they are, because I never use my scales. I'm horrendous. People ask me sometimes, oh, what's your recipe for your sourdough bread? And I'm like, bung it in a dish, mix it, leave it in the fridge for a while, get it back out, fold it, put it back, get it back out, fold it. I find products vary so much naturally, especially wheat, that one loaf of bread might be 70% hydration, another loaf of bread might be 80, and you just have to get a feel for it. And I mess it up as much as the next person. I'm certainly not an expert. I can guarantee if I've given someone a nice loaf of bread, there's probably 2 loaves of bread that haven't come out as well before I give that person the nice one. So it's the same with soup, I guess. I just sort of don't follow a recipe. I just make it up as I go along.
yeah, sure. Excellent.
But yeah, I'll definitely, as soon as I get my brother's laptop back to use, I'll be making some more videos. So I think a soup one will be on the cards. If you guys want it, I'll send it in to you.
It's been asked for, so please do.
Okay. All right. Take care, Richard.
Cheers.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Cheers. Bye. There we go. Ed Loud, and perfect person to ask about all that was coming in. I'm not sure if I had a text come through during that. No, I didn't. I thought I saw something. Oh, no. It was from Stuart Jackson has sent me a WhatsApp about something. So, unfortunately, I can't get that on the screen just yet, but we'll figure that out and we'll get that in for next week. Okay, if you want to call in quickly, it's 07307135174. We will be wrapping up shortly, but we'll get something going. Turbo Stream. Now, going back to Lara Williams about has anyone grown chia? Saw it on Gardener's World this week and wondering whether we're planning for next year. I'm going to go watch Gardener's World and find out just quite how it goes, because I've got an idea. We could actually use chia seeds that we have in our cupboard to start them off and get them growing. But I'll find out and see how it goes. I'll be interested to find out if they actually work as well. Linda, we have another caller. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Well, hello, caller. It's Mr. Jeff Michaels over here. Now, listen to me, Richard. Listen to me close. I'm actually calling you. I've got a bale on my head at the moment. I need 40,000 pounds. It's a lot of money, but Coney, you might not have heard from me for a while, because I'm locked up at a boat where me and Pickles had a little bit of a falling out, and I've been locked up. You're the only number on my phone that I've actually got. So I wonder, 40,000, maybe you could crowdfund it or something.
I'm sure we can sort something out. How are you anyway?
I'm really sorry, Mr. Sutter. I got 15 more seconds. I'm really sorry with the warnings tell me I've only got 15 more seconds on the phone. But if you could possibly get that sorted in the Colorado prison over here, the warden, Mr. Stevens, is going to probably email you.
Yeah, okay. That'd be cool.
Okay, I've got 40,000. If you could
40,000.
get off the phone. I gotta go now. Just a second, but I'll speak to you soon.
Take care. Lovely to hear from you again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I haven't heard from Jeff Michaels and the Monkey Ranch for quite a while, so that was interesting. Chia seed jam Turbo Stream is made, so there's obviously a lot of things we can do with this chia seed. I'm sure we've got some of it in our cupboard somewhere.
We do.
Yeah, we do. Amanda is saying we do have chia seeds, so we might be able to try something
I eat
with
them
that.
every day.
She eats it every day. I have 3 tins of out-of-date pulses beans. What recipe would into? That's for Ed. What recipe would you do with pulses and beans that are a bit out of sight? Okay, and over on Facebook, totally agree. Total waste of water, which is a valuable resource, which has always been my thoughts on it. That's about the pumpkins, of course. I hate saying that because I come across as a bit of it's just my thoughts. I'll put it like that. Wish we had more greengrocers. Nearly all gone up here. Don't know why as butchers survive. Just picked, and this is from Ian up in Manchester, and he's just picked his last lemon today. Yeah, that was Jeff Lee. I think that's a shame that greengrocers are closing down all over the place, because I don't think supermarkets, again, they're led by business. They've got to make money, and that's that. So I think there's the fact that greengrocers are closing down is really, really sad. However, we can beat it by growing our own, of course. Right, we'll go for 5 more minutes, unless anybody calls in and keeps it going for longer. 07307 135 174. Ed is saying cabbage and beans are great. Peppers and tomatoes work well with that too. So cabbage and bean soup. I've never tried. I haven't got my books in here anymore that I'll quickly refer to. Now, Artemisa, I think that was what was her name? Was it? It wasn't Laura. It was Kelly. That's it. It could be wormwood or sagebrush. So based on that, Kelly, if you're still watching, if it's like a sagebrush or wormwood or something, then it probably will be okay outside. But let's try looking it up on the fly here. Artemisa cola plant. Kitchen Garden Plant Centre. I've never heard of that site. I'll check this out. Oh, I see. So it looks a bit like, quite fern-like. Almost looks like a curry plant, actually. How hardy? It's a hardy perennial. So, Kelly, it'll be fine outside. You might want to... she is watching. So, yes, I've quickly looked it up. It looks a bit like a curry plant in some ways, or a wormwood plant. It says it's a hardy perennial, so it should be okay outside. But I might just, if it's a small plant, might just cover it with a bit of fleece if you get some really cold weather come in. That's what I would say. If you can take a cutting as well, take a cutting and keep that indoors. That way you've always got a backup. Something I always try and do when I'm worried about something not seen through the winter is always trying to have a backup. So it should be okay. That's my thoughts. Whatever you think. Cola, yeah. I can't. I can't send a comment into you guys on there. So if you want to email me, I'll send you the link, Kelly, and you should find a bit more information about that. Now, Ian Beddoes is asking why Jeff never comments. I have no idea. 2 minutes to go, everyone, and then we'll close up for the night. 07307 135 174. And so we've figured out this Artemisa cola plant, which sounds actually, I've got to say, really interesting. I might try and get some plants myself one day like that. Chia. Growing chia. That was the other thing we were going to look at. Growing chia. Oh, it can be done. It definitely can be done. There's a YouTube video. Doesn't say who it's by. That shows it being done. And as a microgreen. Gardening know-how. Trying to work out, because a lot of these sites sometimes come from across the pond from us in the UK. So sometimes there's an article from The Guardian in 2018, which first UK grown chia seeds go on sale this week. So they've obviously a variety. Lara, is it Laura or Lara? A variety that has only just been bred to be grown in the UK. And it's only 2 years old. So, but it's mostly been grown for oil. It's native to the Americas, but it is a popular plant-based diets. Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit like amaranth. You've got to grow a lot of it, let it dry out, let the seed heads dry out, and hopefully it will produce a good crop. I'm wondering if we can get hold of the seeds. Don't know if we're going to be able to get hold of the seeds. That's going to be the only trouble with chia. Anyway, that answers that question. Let's have a quick look at the comments before we wrap up for tonight. Nothing on Facebook to go back over. Linda Kane was thinking of adding Savoy cabbage. Don't do too spicy. Love spice myself. No, you don't, Richard. I think many people would agree on waste of any kind. Yeah, I mean, that's coming back to the pumpkins again. I do think it is a bit wasteful, so I'm glad I'm not the only one. Supermarkets are led by the buying public, and that's what I've always said as well. Supermarkets are there to make money. All the time we spend money on the products that they sell, they will continue to sell it. So if we want to lead supermarkets, buy the products that we want, that we feel are going to be good. Kelly is watching and is going to email me. Excellent. Right. That is it for this week's live stream. Lots of chat going on all over the place. To me, felt very combobulated with conversations going here, there and everywhere, but it's all good fun, isn't it? Back again next Sunday, 6 p.m, live on Facebook, YouTube. Phone line will be open again if anybody does decide to call in. We want... hopefully we may have, if we're lucky, may have a video from Ed Loud about soup. We've got something from Stuart that we might be able to play in as well as the photos. On the podcast tomorrow, I can't remember what is going to be out on the actual audio podcast, but listen out for that. I've got this whole Thursday night. Lee is down here. Lee Connolly, Skinny Jean Gardener, and I will be on his live show, 8 p.m, Skinny Jean Gardener on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all the places. So take care, everyone, and until next time, we'll see you again then. So I've just seen a comment from Bill and Val as I was closing off about getting harder to get